Hello, everybody. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. Meteorologist Greg Soulje joins us here today with a early in the week update. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Sarah. Nice to be with you. And that update includes finally a movement of a weather system with time out of the eastern corn belt, some welcome rains, maybe too much of it, and where they've had it already in the southern states, more for the deep south, but a nice, as we say, window of opportunity that's been playing out in the western corn belt and the northern plains with some summer warmth and heat there. And some of that is headed eastbound. So like we talked about, progress has been made on corn planting, better numbers in the western sections, a bit delayed in the east and southern areas, but they're probably the best window of opportunity that we'll see this springtime season materializing here over the next several days.
Gotta love that. So let's dive into it. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Here we go on a May 6th on a Tuesday. And the headlines, not only this range of temperatures still lingering in the 50s and 60s over the northernmost and easternmost corn belt, not going to get things to really budge there, but nice to see some of the soil temperatures posted from the Illinois State Water Survey across the land of Lincoln. And some of these daytime readings at the 4-inch level are well above and north of the 60-degree mark. So that things are hopping and popping. Reports from our radio pals in Champaign County and around Vermilion County, Illinois, a little bit of emergence going on as well on the corn side of things. And the more dominant pace has been in the western sections. Look at Nebraska, 29% in the ground. They are leading the pack, and that is about 21% up from what they had about a week ago. All this taking into account data up to and ending on May 4th. So the western corn belt, I'm sure sections of Iowa as well, and parts of at least southern Minnesota have made some respectable gains too. But it's those westernmost areas of the corn belt have made some great gains. And hang in there, folks, in the east. Your day is coming here shortly. Across the plain states, it's really it's been really all at once. We're going to go from a drought to a flood, and we've seen that already in the parts of Oklahoma, northern Texas. More is underway for the day today. There's a movement into Bayou country, the Delta, and southern states. With time, by the way, those rains are going to take aim at the southeastern states, the drought areas of the Carolinas, in through Georgia and Florida. So there should be some help on the way in the next 3 or 4 days. But apart from that, pretty good range of temperatures. Unfortunately, some flooding in some of the fields across Oklahoma. Had some flash flooding in West Texas, some of the areas of perhaps livestock country west of out there, south of maybe west of about Big Springs, for example, had some pretty healthy downpours the past couple of days and as well as this morning. So some of those pockets have gone from, again, the inability to take in any significant rain, now too much rain, and that's what happens when those grounds are just baked rock hard solid in some of those worst drought areas of West Texas and the Rio Grande. Southern Corn Belt crops have made great progress in emergence, development, planting, etc., so forth and so on, except for still some pockets through Tennessee and the Mid-South. Everybody essentially across the central Gulf Coast are basically, and points to the north and west, ahead of schedule in that same Gulf Coast area. The showers and thunderstorms are moving into the Delta region, and those will be moving eastbound along that I-10 and I-20 corridor. And again, some opportunity to get some meaningful rainfall into parts of Florida and the Carolinas. That is the worst of at least the southeastern drought corridor, and we'll see that here in just a second. And again, it's kind of late in arriving. This weather system coming through the southwestern part of the country, very much a set of weather maps and charts in the upper air that continue to have the look and feel of El Nino. And wouldn't be surprised, just have a gut feeling we're into this quicker and faster than anything and any of the data is leading up to. So a little bit of at least a deviation in the longer range stuff, but pretty much holding sway here on the end of the moisture season. The Southwest typically ends anyway, 1st of March. So this is a bonus, but not enough to put a significant crimp in dryness and drought. And there's more heat evolving and through some of those southwestern parts of the country as well in the coming days. So you start the runoff process premature in those mountains of the Southwest. The severe weather threat in 2 areas around one of these cold core lows that came through the eastern corn belt the past couple of days. Had some stronger storms in parts of Ohio and some hail reports yesterday. Rain through Ohio this morning. The colder side and the better lift of that low, there may be some severe weather, at least a slight risk into the northeastern states, and a little more broad-based slight risk to marginal threat for severe weather, kind of a category 2 and 3 out of 5 across much of Texas and then through the Delta region. That area will get rough roughed up with some severe weather this afternoon. This map suggesting we're the more significant heavy rain event, at least a marginal, again, a 3 out of 5 threat for some excessive rainfall over some of the wet grounds of eastern Texas, the Delta region, and into areas of the southeastern states. So that continues to be the corridor of some problematic weather, drought relief, pasture lands appreciated, livestock, different story. Same with some of those summer crops over the Delta region too. And you can see at least the western flank of that moisture will make a little bit of a minor dent in the worst of the dryness and drought. That's going to be probably an expanding and headlining story as we get deeper into spring and more so this summer. Southern California, Arizona, New Mexico, Four Corners area. With time, it's going to build back northward. Some of those pockets that have seen some moderate improvement to maybe even an eradication of dryness and drought, parts of Montana, North Dakota. That will be worsening in the probably next several weeks to come. And yeah, it will build from northwest to southeast, that drought-ridden weather pattern. So enjoy the relief and the improvement that you've seen in those western Corn Belt areas. You can see the dryness and drought issues in the Mid-Atlantic region down through eastern and southern Georgia and Florida. Hopefully some moisture to at least ease that weather pattern out there. I think the rainy season will be probably the more significant opportunity to get some meaningful rain in through Florida. Anyway, pretty vivid looking Tuesday afternoon from a moisture standpoint. Maybe some chill stress on livestock, although it's not terribly cold, but that's the story in through New Mexico and parts of Oklahoma, Texas. Still some snow on the highest peaks of the Rockies. A couple of showers breaking out across the Dakotas. That cold front, by the way, that you see through Minnesota, the Dakotas, is expected to kind of get absorbed by that system in the northeast of New England. So you can still see some chilly rains through Michigan, Ohio, a couple of stronger storms into the northeast of New England, but some pretty good soaking rains that will continue in expansion back into Kansas, back into Oklahoma. New Mexico, appreciate that rain, and the roughest of the weather east and southeast of the Metroplex down to Houston, east to Lake Charles, maybe Baton Rouge, and heading towards New Orleans this afternoon and evening time. By tomorrow, you can see a cold front, at least as it applies to the Corn Belt, Northern Plains beginning to settle southward. That's super cold air. That high is really going to stay through the Canadian Prairie. And that is very warm air, by the way, up into the southern reaches of the Canadian Prairie, even with the cool off daytime temperatures going back, at least heading in the next few days, rest of the weekend into the weekend, well into the 80s for some of those spring grain areas of southern Manitoba, Alberta, Saskatchewan, probably some 90-degree heat that is at the Canadian border. We've kind of juxtapositioned, if you will, the heat. You typically think it's in the south. You get the right up air pattern going on this time of the year. You can get what we call compressional warming and a little flow off the Canadian and U.S. Rockies, and you can heat up just as quickly, minus the humidity factor, of which you'll be high and bountiful and plentiful over the Delta and southeastern states with showers and thunderstorms in that particular part of the country and more organized rain into the southern sections of the Plain States region. The rains become a little more scattered by tomorrow afternoon into the southeastern part of the country. And you can see that front as it makes its way through Illinois, Indiana. It's conceivable some of the southern Corn Belt areas, kind of on that I-70 corridor, again on southward, may come up with a couple of brief light showers, 10th to less than a quarter inch. 30 or 40% coverage if you wanted to talk like the commodity guys do. We'll put it in that context. So, no real net improvement, no net worsening out of that particular weather system over the southern Corn Belt areas. Everybody else, again, out in the western belt, primarily through the Corn Palace, Sioux Empire region, Twin Cities on westward, all ahead forward on the field work there. And you can see, again, a couple of spotty showers by Thursday morning, moving out of the I-70 corridor, cooler, drier air settling in across the Corn Belt, just to return to more seasonal temperatures across the Great Lakes and much of the Corn Belt. Nothing worse than that. And there's a bigger warm up. You can see that red hatched area through Montana. That's a warm front. The atmosphere once again expanding in warming into the western part of the hemisphere. And on the eastern side of that ridge is sinking. And hence that's where you get your warming as well on those increasing south winds. Again, some welcome moisture for the southeastern part of the country. There's the next 48 hours. And some of those gauges will be more than an inch and a quarter, inch and a half through Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma Panhandle, and over the next couple of days, easily another 2 to 4 into eastern Texas and Bayou country and much of the deep south. And that may aggravate against stream and river issues and certainly result in flooding. So that's the story. 1 to 3, actually some 2 to 4 inch totals there. If you were to take into account over the next 3 to 5 days, probably south of I-10 and I-20 along the immediate Gulf Coast, it's conceivable a half a foot of rain may come down there. Again, some eastward progression losing some of its vivid vigor, not a lot though. And while the rain is coming into play, there may be some severe weather-related issues in the southeastern states, including Florida and the Carolinas later this week. So heads up on that. In contrast, hardly anything to speak of outside of what we just mentioned in the southernmost Corn Belt and Ohio Valley. And here comes the heat. Desert Southwest in the wake of this weather system, heading towards 100 and 105 degrees, although there are some indications there'll be another kind of a dry-based weather system, some dry-based thunderstorm activity, and another cool-off of temperatures early to mid next week on some of the longer-range maps and charts and some of the stuff we drew up here in the office this morning with that system over the southeastern states still lingering. So there's heat in the forecast. It's kind of in a weird position. Well, you expect it in the valleys of southern valleys of California and the Southwest. You don't necessarily expect it into the Dakotas and southern Canadian prairie. But the good news is once we get that low out of the southeastern part of the country, that warmer air mass and hence the warming of soils that we've been monitoring through the eastern Corn Belt from the Illinois State Water Survey, some of those are already into play in the western belt. They'll be increasing. So if you're even keeled in moisture and stuff's in the ground and temperatures are warming, again, the best progress emergence is going to be west and northwest here going forward. And again, progress in the best window of opportunity I think we'll see for the month of June. Pardon me, I wish it were June. A month of May will be playing out in the next few days over the eastern Corn Belt locales. I must have vacation penciled on my brain in June sometime. Anyway, next 5 days, there's that weather system out of the southeastern plains into the southern states, and it's a cutoff low. You can see the green lines are compact together. That's the jet stream, what we call these cutoff lows that move at their own sweet pace and time. They back up sometimes, they move forward at a snail's pace, and it's still lingering Sunday into Monday in the southeastern states, including Florida. May get roughed up with severe weather, but there's some rain in the forecast there. Another system dropping into California and the western states. That will be largely a dry-based one, except for Northern California, Pacific Northwest. That, incidentally, is the next significant moisture maker for the northern and central plains, southern Canadian prairie, probably mid to late next week. And then as we get probably closer, I'm going to try and do some math in my head. If that's 13, 14, or 7 or 8, 9 days out, probably between the 15th and 20th, it's the eastern Corn Belt, probably the 20th and beyond, where we move back into a wetter weather pattern. We'll have that, hopefully checked it out this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness. And we'll have our podcast, our live stream next Wednesday, I believe it is, at 1 o'clock. And we'll certainly update the spring forecast and the summer outlook as well. And there's still a fair amount of rain in those eastern Corn Belt locales and timely rains in the western sections of the Corn Belt. We're kind of in the early days as we see it of El Nino. We'll tell you how that transpires for the upcoming summertime season. So plenty of action in the maps and charts. And quickly into the surface maps, you can see that little low lollygagging across the Gulf Coast and through Florida, Gulf of Mexico, as late as Tuesday, Wednesday next week. And again, rough weather, but rainfall, even in the mid-Atlantic region, the Outer Banks of Carolinas, along the Piedmont and points on southward, while a good part of the Midwest is high and dry, except for that stuff that comes through the next couple of days. Inconsequential to gauge, you can see that warm front out of the Dakotas and Minnesota pressing northward. Those lines are coming up out of the south, and that's the eastern flank of that warm bubble, that hot ridge over the southern Canadian prairie, the northern and central plains. So we get into that early next week as well. It's ongoing. Severe weather may get going Tuesday, Wednesday across the Dakotas, west of the Corn Palace, and then probably late next week into some areas of the Mississippi Valley and upper Midwest. So you got a window, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 8, 9 days maybe for some of these Corn Belt areas to make some very good progress or get going, get perhaps replanted if you had some of those heavy rains in April in the southern Corn Belt. But this is probably our best window of opportunity we're going to see here for the month of May going forward for now. So get it done while you can. There's those big rain numbers over the next 7 to 10 days, Gulf Coast, southeastern states, and again, drought relief for the mid-Atlantic region and down in through Florida. Not much to speak of over the next 7 over a wide area of the Corn Belt, except for some of those eastern areas in the next 24 to 36 hours, i.e. Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. Not any big endorsement, just something to talk about here, but it's the right idea going forward through the 10th to 15th of May for the Corn Belt. Great shape eastern areas from a planting standpoint. Moisture into the western states. Again, another example. You don't get these significant moisture makers into the Pacific Northwest, northern and central Rockies, even northern California, in a non-El Nino year, or a nondescript or a neutral year. There's something going on, and we think from watching the Pacific water temperatures, we're probably into an El Nino setup already. And look at the moisture expand. This is a moving progressive weather pattern. So the rains are into the western Corn Belt between about the 15th to no later than the 20th, and probably the 20th to the 24th, 25th, close to Memorial Day weekend. Sorry, but it looks like there's going to be some showers and thunderstorms into the eastern Corn Belt locales. But folks trying to get the backyard pool on the farmstead or the ranch ready to go, warmed up. There's your water temperature. I should say your air temperatures that will help the water temperatures. 85 to 90 degree air. That's early. That's record setting for areas of the upper Midwest, Red River Valley of the North, and upper Mississippi Valley. That warmth will move east with time into the rest of the eastern Corn Belt locales in the next 10 days to 2 weeks. So, Sarah, that's the story here. It's really a good forecast for everybody. You may not necessarily like it, but it's good for Mother Nature, soils, pasture lands, maybe livestock, a different story. Winter wheat, yeah. Corn Belt, yeah. We've got dry time. We've made progress northwest. Forecast verifies rains coming into the eastern Corn Belt after and around and after the 20th of May, and probably a wetter cycle that we move through into the beginning part of June as well. I think that's the way it was detailed on the TV show this past weekend. So that's it for you here from the Weather Office on a Tuesday.
I think we heard a bunch of tractors starting out there, ready to get into that window if they haven't been in there already. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
There you go. Exactly. So, yeah, as Greg mentioned, he'll be on with a longer term forecast next Wednesday on Feedstuffs 365. So put that on your calendar, 1 p.m. Central. And of course, we'll be touching base with Greg next Friday to get a early week look at the weather. So, and This Week in Agribusiness every weekend on RFD TV and another 120 affiliated stations. So all kinds of opportunity to get Greg's forecast. So Greg, we appreciate your time here today. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And we appreciate all of you tuning in as well.